Hello. Let's talk about your relationship with desire. So it's really common when I work with women. Oh my gosh, I have this funny little thing on my hat. It's fun. When I work with women that they say that they don't even know what they want anymore, that their relationship with desire is somehow fractured. And I posted a survey in our group space, Hi Lisa, recently, and asked what's the most difficult relationship, your partner, your child, your parents, and the most difficult relationship that you all said that you have is the one with what you want and what you desire. So I want to talk a little bit about that and then give you a couple of very practical tools to start practicing so that you can shift that. I deeply believe that when we follow our want, our desire, that is the key to having the life that you want. What's interesting is even as I say that, I want you to pay attention to what that brings up for you. Like I know for me, when I had a mentor many years ago say something like that to me, I thought, that can't be true. Like, how selfish is that? You can't just do whatever you want to do because who's gonna clean the house or who's gonna, work for money when it's a beautiful day out and you wanna sit by the pool, right? And so even before, back then, even before I got to the place of visioning or fantasizing about what I really wanted in life, I slammed on the brake, which means that I had no opportunity to allow that desire to be born, right? And your desire, your want is incredibly important because you want what you want, period. When I teach people around sex and intimacy, I talk a lot about how we have the sexual intimate appetites that we have, and they are just our appetites, just like some of us have an appetite for salad and some of us have an appetite for a hamburger and we just have different appetites. And trying to change your appetite is really hard because you want what you want. And it's the same with your life. You want what you want. You want to do what you want. You want to be loved the way that you want. You want to dress the way that you want. You want to show up in life the way that you want. But so many of us stop our wanting because we have a part of us. And if you've been in my space for a while, you've been hearing me talk recently a lot about archetypes and shadow and parts work, which is really what I'm shifting my entire focus towards right now, is working with women much more deeply on these different parts. Because what I found in my own life is when I start paying attention and reclaiming these parts, there's so much power there. Right? And so this part of me that I have had, that when I have something that I want, that I immediately say, well, I can't have that or I can't do that. And so here's an example. I'm sitting outside. I'm in Southern Arizona. It's 83 degrees and beautiful, and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. It's lovely. And I looked at the clock and saw, oh, I'm going to do a Facebook Live. I should go inside and go to my office and take my hat off and brush my hair and, do the things. And then I felt into, what do I want? What I want is to show up the way that I want to. That's what I want, right? It's a real simple example, but I think it's one that you all can relate to. How it is that even in how we dress, how we think we need to show up for a Zoom call, because if I show up in a different way, maybe you won't think I'm professional, or maybe my boss won't like it, or maybe I won't be a good representative in the way that I think that I should be, whatever all of that narrative means. And in this deeper level of work that I'm inviting you into, I want you to presence all of those parts, right? To be very aware of those voices that tell you you can't want what you want and you certainly can't have it. One of the women who I mentored the other day said that voice in her says, who do you think you are? Right? Do you have that voice? If you're watching this on replay, I'd love to hear if you have that voice. Who do you think you are? that you get to have that. You get to have your cake and eat it too, right? And so coming into relationship with your desire and your want, I think is pivotal in these times. It's pivotal because if we really want to live into a future that is founded with the things that we often talk about, but we don't often practice, especially when it gets hard, right? Most of us want to have families and communities that are founded on love, on peace, on connection. We want to have relationships that are spiritual or there's depth. We want to be able to be vulnerable. We want there to be security and safety, right? And so if any of those things are true for you, then that means looking at how you prevent those things in yourself, right? So let me give you an example. So if I want to have an experience of internal peace or calm, but then I have a part of me in my head that's warring with me, that's waging war on me, that's saying, you can't want what you want, you can't do your video outside, or you can't say what you want to say to your father at the family reunion, or you can't wear that or talk to that person or think that you can have the kind of business that you want, right? That part is creating an internal war. Does that make sense? Because I have a want, and then there are these voices, these parts, or shadow archetypes that are showing up and saying, you can't do that, right? And so now I'm in a war. And one of the things that I know, some of you have heard me say, there's this saying, as above, so below. So that means whatever's happening outside of us in our big, big world here, there's a lot happening. That is happening internal to us too, right? They say that there are like 30 wars happening on any given day globally. Most of us are warring with ourselves as well, or we're warring with family members. Hi, Danny, nice to see you here. We're warring by being the victim to somebody's story, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a parent who you feel like has silenced you or has been mean to you or didn't support you. And so every time you toggle back into that narrative, you're a victim. And then you're pushing against them. They shouldn't have done this. It should be different. My life should be different. If they would have supported me, if they would have made it easier for me, whatever. So now I'm a victim and I'm pushing up against them. Does that make sense? So I'm participating in internally a kind of warring consciousness with me. And if I expect there to be peace and love and connection and vulnerability and understanding and compassion outside of me, then it would serve the world the most if I started looking at where it is that I'm warring with myself internally. And that starts with knowing what you want, knowing your desires, right? So partnering with yourself to start to pay attention to what feels good for you and practicing having fantasies about actually having those experiences fulfilled. What would it feel like to have the kind of relationship that you want? To be loved deeply the way that you want. One of the exercises that some of the women who are stepping into this private container called Shimmer Your Shadow, we start that tomorrow, and I'm probably going to open a second container in the next month or two. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that. It's a real high-end VIP experience, and what we are going to be stepping into with them is helping them really get specific about their desires. Because if you're not specific about what you want, then it becomes really hard to create it. Thank you, Danny. You said partnering with yourself and seeing what feels good for you, right? It can be so challenging for us to really see that. This is a practice that my husband and I have done together, where I've recognized that one of the ways that I feel really seen and loved by him is when he comes home, if he comes and he touches me or he makes eye contact with me, like really specific things. And although yes, it is very important for you to do these things for yourself, right? So if you want your partner to see you and to touch you, you have to do that for yourself first. And that's what my relationship mastery course, my program, has been about. For those of you who've participated in it, it always starts with you doing that for yourself first, and then inviting your partner in to participating in that. Where we get stuck is we don't do it for ourselves because we don't have time. I don't have time to see myself, right? And so a real way that I see myself for me is I get up in the morning, I have about 2.5 hours of morning practices that include exercise, meditation, and journaling and reflection. So I deeply have a practice of seeing myself, and then I'm creating a signal internally for security. Like, I got me. So I don't need my husband to do it. It's my request. And because we're in a collaborative relationship, he participates in that. But I'm not looking to him to do it so that I feel like I'm enough. Because if you do that, you're, in 12-step, they say you go to the hardware store for milk. You're looking at the wrong place for that. So we have to do it for ourselves first. Then we can invite somebody in. Danny says, specific about your desires. I love that. Sometimes we're mad about how our lives are, but didn't take the time and energy to get clear about what we want. Totally. Yeah, do it first for yourself. So different than what we're conditioned to do completely. We're conditioned that the other person completes me. And when we, participate in that false narrative, we're going to be let down because the other person is human. And also, the whole point of relationship is for your partner to mirror to yourself the parts of yourself that you otherwise don't see, right? And so an easy way, so back to a very clear tool for you to do some exploration play with yourself, is to look at where is it that you feel like your partner is failing you. And it could be your partner. If you're not in a partnered relationship, it might be your sister, or your brother, or your mother, or your father, or a neighbor, or best friend. Where is it that you feel like they're not showing up? Because that's probably indicating to you where it is that you're not actively participating in loving yourself. So maybe they're not initiating contact with you. Maybe they're not creating a container where you feel emotionally safe. So then you look at, where do I do that for myself? Where am I not showing up for me? And I hear this so often and have for, 20 years from women, where I don't have time. I don't have time to work out, or I don't have time to sit and meditate for 20 minutes, or I don't have time to do what I love to do because I put everybody else before me, right? And as long as I'm putting everybody else before me, then I'm perpetrating against myself, right? I'm practicing abandoning myself, and then I want somebody else to rescue me. And none of that is going to create this most beautiful world that many of us want to be living in, where we have peace, connection, love, right? So we can't have anything external to us in our family, our community, our planet, until we have it internal. And it all starts with your desire. It all starts with recognizing what feels good. And so many of us have numbed out, right? And I have an awareness that often the feeling of numbness is fury and rage that's been tamped down for so long that there's just no feeling left in it. And so I encourage you to pay attention to where you feel numb. I encourage you, if you feel like, I don't even know what I want, okay. So partner with yourself and start asking questions and get curious. Danny says, thank you for sharing that tool. It makes total sense. Totally takes us out of a victim mentality when it shows us something about what we aren't doing for ourselves, right? And many of us, I know, I spent many years of my life in a victim state, although I was powerful and I've owned my own business for a very long time and, have had good relationships. In the quiet of my own mind, I was a victim to fill in the blank, right? And victim consciousness is never going to get any of us where it is that we want to go, as far as I'm concerned, in my humble opinion. And so what that means is we get to reclaim all parts of ourselves. And the practice of personal reclamation starts with paying attention to what you want. And it can be as simple as what feels good to wear in this moment, rather than what should I wear? What do I have to wear? How do I want to do my hair? How do I want to wear makeup or not wear makeup? Like, what do I actually want? What do I want to eat? What feels good to my body? How do I want to be touched? What kind of touch do I enjoy? What is it like for you to touch your own arm, right? And feel into what feels good about that, right? And so start asking yourself, and then be brave enough that when you hear an answer, there's a hummingbird right there flying over me. When you hear an answer, when you feel a truth, then trust it. Listen to it, right? If you want someone else to tend to your wants, even when it's inconvenient for them, you get to do that first, right? So even when it's inconvenient for you to start your day 30 minutes earlier so that you can anchor in a state of peace and quiet, you can light a candle, you can journal, you can read poetry or some spiritual prose that turns you on, right? Turns on your light. So pay attention to what turns you on. For me, sunshine turns me on. I feel on when I'm outside. I love being hot. Often, the hotter, the better. I don't mind being hot at all, right? And so that feels good for me. So it's a really simple thing. What kind of beverages do you enjoy, right? And start keeping an inventory of what feels good for you. And then do it for yourself and notice the voices that you have around that. So I'm going to stop there. I hope that this has been helpful. I would love for those of you who are watching this to share what turns you on. What are the stories that you have in your mind about you having what you want, right? Really paying attention to where it is that you have parts of yourself that tell you you can't do it this way or that way, or you can't have everything that you want, or who do you think you are? All of those narratives that we have. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Danny. Great to see you. And I will be back in next week answering more questions. So please feel free to post them below, and I will follow up on afterwards on the replay. And those of you who might be interested down the road in the next iteration of Shimmer Your Shadow, make sure to get on my email list. That's the place where people find out first about what I'm offering and what I'm doing. And take really good care of yourself. Bye-bye.